also then my ankle would get swollen for no reason. So they recommended just kind of dipping my ankle with salt in.
Call this meeting to order.
That's awesome. Start doing that.
Can we start with the roll call?
You certainly can. Shelley Reed.
Here.
And I see Alex Velto just walked in, so we'll get him there on the record. Manny Becerra for Harris Armstrong. Francine Donchik.
Here.
Marilyn Kramer.
Here.
Kate Nelson.
Here.
Carl Nieberlin.
Here via Zoom.
And Pat Phillips.
Here.
And Carrie Rohrmeyer, not here yet.
Thank you. Let's do our salute to our flag. Nate, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to note, Carrie Rohrmeyer just joined. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Donchik, I move for the approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Velto, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Commissioner Phillips.
Second. Better motion. Oh, Commissioner Velto already seconded.
Beat you to it. How are you?
So we have a motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion passes. We'll move on to our first public comment of the night. Do we have any public comment?
We do, yeah. I have two, and I just received a third. Susan, are you just general public comment? Okay. Well, it looks like we have three for this item. So first up, I have Danny Cleus.
Come on up. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Make sure you introduce yourself.
Danny Cleus for the record. Been here many times, way before. Now you guys get to see me. North Valley Master Plan, by you guys. They did the research that everybody should have done before building out there. It has water reports, it has dirt reports, and what y'all have done over the past, 12, almost 15 years, is ruined the North Valleys. This is something else you guys should do. Read the hydrology reports of the North Valleys. That's just one. There's another one, the Quad and Knopf report. Another really good hydrology report. That one's from DRI. In the back of these reports, you can get even more hydrology reports. Pause my time, please. These guys are talking, not paying attention to me.
No, I was just wanting to know what your name was, but you.
I said it at the beginning.
Finish. Yeah.
Us in the valleys are tired of being flooded. Since 2017, that lake has never dried up. Since October of this year, that lake has risen almost 11 inches. And we haven't had any storm events. That's all coming from the city of Reno and their effluent going in there. That lake is the most polluted lake in the area. It's causing sickness. It's causing health issues. 2 nights ago, went outside to let my dog out at midnight. Smelled like sewage. Nobody around my neighborhood has a septic problem. We haven't had rain. There's no reason for it. We busted the city of Reno before for dumping sewage in there. We busted Washoe County for dumping sewage in there. It's making us sick. And you guys keep letting developers build what they shouldn't do. In 1982, when this was written, It says no industrial, no multifamily. That area wasn't designed for what you guys have done to it. Now, there's a thing on the agenda tonight that they want to change it again. And I'm sure you guys will approve it because you don't listen to the people that live out there. It's not right, guys. You guys made a mess out of my area.
Thank you.
All right, next up I have Tammy Holtstill, and after that will be Susan Van Ness.
I take medicine
So we're just going to do that.
Okay. Ooh, not very good. Okay. Tammy Holtz still live in Lemon Valley. Please put all my documents and my comments on the record. We are requesting the SWS Hearing Board to have a hearing regarding Swan Lake and the dangers created by the City of Reno, Washoe County sewer facilities for the following reasons. A certified test at the spigots where the City of Reno decided to do their little hay project to dewater Swan Lake is not a quality effluent that went to those spigots. It is Class C effluent, like I've always stated. Number two, proof B, Swan Lake itself has never been a effluent. This was taken as of this year, 2023. You can see that there's not only cauliflower and E. coli, there's arsenic that is over the limit. Then we have, for more proof, the thesis by UNR showing that there's PFAS, which is forever plastics. At the same time that this was talked about in the press conference, they should have been talking about the medical waste thesis that was out there. This is proof number D, that not only is there cauliflower, E. coli, there's medical waste, and now there's arsenic over the limits. Currently, as of October 21st, that is what Swan Lake looks like. It is way above where we need it to be, and it will come out of its rim. Here is a look at Washoe County Sewer Plant. Washoe County Sewer Plant is supposed to have 9 to 11 saturation or evaporation ponds. Do you see 9 or 11 of those in there? I don't. Here's a better proof of what it looks like. It's in the lake. It needs to change. I also, as soon as I got my last certified test, I contacted Congressman Amadei's office. I told him how it damaged somebody doing the hay spigot thing. I also talked to them about the different PFAS, waste, medical waste, the cauliflower, the arsenic. He knew all about it. Then I get a response about the DMRs that they got to see that I have been asking for 3 years. You've got a problem, it needs to change. And then you want to build in a floodplain even more? Come on. You need to stop and think and use your brains.
And the last one I have for general public comment is Susan Van Ness. Oh, we have one more after her.
My name is Susan Van Ness. I've been a resident out at Lemon Valley for over 24 years. What Tammy is saying is absolutely true. And my part of it, there are people getting very ill out there. I'm running into people with lumps on their neck. I'm running into people with school children that play out in that dirt at the elementary school, and they're coughing and they have rashes. Many have dogs that are getting sores on them. We don't know what's going on. I went down to the One Water Nevada that they're going to put in the facility, and I talked to the administrator of the NDEP. She's trying to tell me that the new facility that they upgraded, it's not new, but they upgraded it to double, and she said that they can't push enough water out that's treated properly because it's a permit process. So they need somewhere where the water to go, but it's getting overloaded and it's not being treated properly, so it must be going into Swan Lake without proper treatment. Then Joe from Reno City, who Reno City manages that treatment center, he said, no, that's not true. It's not the permit process. We can treat all the water, but we just don't have anywhere to send the water. We're trying to send it to the Reno Verdite, not Reno, but Reno Sparks facility, and then we put some into Swan Lake. But something's not right because I'm getting from different officials 2 or 3 different answers. Now, who's right? So are we going to build more out there like what's going in right now, a lot more homes? If they can't take care of the treatment of the water right now, what are we doing? How many more do we have to get, and how many more of us out there have to be sick? And the other point is, all of a sudden, the Tumwa man, Mr. Enlow, came to me, and I asked him about our water, and he goes, oh, we started shipping in Fish Springs water. It hasn't been thoroughly tested yet. Well, our water's terrible. Our water's cloudy. It's full of sediment and something else. It smells. And then every once in a while, it's highly chlorinated. So I talked to experts, and they said, that's the key. Somebody's trying to cover something up. And I, too, will go and spend more money, and I will get some more testing done. But we go to people everywhere, and I'm getting 2 and 3 different stories. But let's go back to the children at the elementary school. Are we going to leave them to play in that dirt it's been contaminated, and it's not from wildlife and horses like they're trying to tell us. It is not. It's from sewer. I mean, brushing our teeth with poop is what we're doing.
Thank you. And we have one more.
Yes, I believe we have one more, Denise Ross.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Denise Ross. Can I have the overhead, please? I guess this will come up so you guys can see it. We were at a meeting for the North Valley's Water Subcommittee about a month and a half ago, and I called on the city of Reno, Dwayne Smith, and Washoe County, and the Water Subcommittee to investigate a little bit further about the PFAS and the crap going into Swan Lake. Well, I asked them to investigate Sherman-Williams because I had proof, I had pictures of the waste that's going into the lake that's killing us, because a lot of our friends have cancer now, and they're cancer clusters that we are investigating. Now, you guys take a look at this. Guess how many people after that meeting wanted to see the pictures of the industrial mess that you guys are making out there? Not one. You guys need to stand up, take responsibility for what's going on out there before you start inviting new people out into the valley. Because you're killing us, you're just going to start killing more people. We can't afford to move. We're all retired. Most of us out there, we're retired. We're recovering from the 2017 flood. Our spouses have died of cancer. You guys need to listen. Look at the pictures. Look at the tests. Look at the proof we keep giving before you keep passing more and more development, more and more industry. you guys, you're all going to be responsible for this. And I know that you all have your legal fund that covers you. I don't know how you can sleep at night if you guys keep this up.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment?
That is all I have received.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and close public comment and open it up for approval of the minutes. Can-
Madam Chair, Commissioner Donchik, I second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Kramer and a second by Commissioner Donchik. Do we have any discussion?
Commissioner Veltel, I'll need to recuse myself because I wasn't present at that meeting.
Okay. All right, any other? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Let's move on to the consent agenda and item A, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. On the consent agenda, we have possible adoption of the advanced schedule of RPC meeting dates for next year.
There's no presentation. Do we need to vote on this?
Yeah, you need to vote on the consent agenda or indicate if anyone would like it to be pulled, and we could talk more about it.
That's right.
Madam Chair, the board can vote to adopt the consent agenda as written. Otherwise, if someone wants to pull an item, they can request to do so, and there would be deliberation and comment and action taken on that particular item.
Thank you. We don't get consent agenda that often.
Commissioner Veltel, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Donchik, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move on to the business of the day. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 7A is discussion and possible action to designate members of the RPC to serve on the Projects of Regional Significance Subcommittee. This is a subcommittee that has previously existed, where we evaluated the Project of Regional Significance guidelines. Two of the members, the member from City of Reno and the member from Washoe County, have termed out of their membership on this commission. And so what we're looking to do is reestablish the PRS subcommittee with the current sitting members. And so really it's really that Reno and Washoe seat. Chair Reed, if you want to stay on that subcommittee, I believe, because you're already on it.
Yes,
So.
I should probably stay on it. And yeah, so we're looking for somebody from the city of Reno and then a representative from Washoe County. Any volunteers?
Madam Chair, Jessica Prenti for the record. Historically, the past practice of this body has to be nominate the immediate past chair, the chair, and the vice chair, which constitutes a membership for the subcommittee of each jurisdiction. I recommend that you do so, but there's also within that the ability to approve alternates from each jurisdiction of those who are sitting on the commission, so that if, for example, one member of the commission had to recuse themselves from a particular agenda item that came up before the PRS subcommittee, an alternate could come into play. So,
Okay.
if that's at all helpful.
Right, and the past chair is no longer on this body, so that would,
So it would be the most senior member, ranking member of that jurisdiction.
okay, and that would.
But the body is not married to that past practice, and the body can nominate whatever members they would like to have to serve on that PRS subcommittee. It just has to be one from each jurisdiction.
Right. So they're looking at each other.
Madam Chair, I would would love to join the committee.
I feel like that was like pulling teeth. Well, we can, should we go ahead and have an alternate? Maybe
Yes.
we should have an alternate.
Or maybe just make a motion that, Madam Chair, Jeremy Smith, for the record, make a motion that any of the remaining members could serve as alternates. Would that be acceptable from legal counsel's perspective?
Absolutely. I believe that comports with the past practice as well, Mr. Director.
Okay, perfect.
Commissioner Veltz, I'll make that motion.
All right, and then as vice chair, then you would be the,
Yes.
okay, are you okay with that?
Sure.
And then on items that you would need to recuse yourself from, then we would have one of the other members from City of Reno.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion on the 3 members of this committee.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make that motion. I move to appoint Chair Reed, Vice Chair Velto, and Commissioner Donchek to the PRS subcommittee, and all members of those jurisdictions acting as alternates in there, should they not be able to vote on an item. Does that work?
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Does that work?
That sounds perfectly acceptable from a legal perspective.
Great.
Commissioner Veltz will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to item B, Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 7B is for possible action. It's a public hearing item, a regional plan amendment and Washoe County master plan amendment conformance review for the Lerner Lemon project. We have Regional Planner Chris Tolley to take us through a presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. I'll be taking us through this item. And this is a conformance review, both a conformance review and master plan amendment for the Lerner Lemon amendment to the Washoe County master plan. And those case numbers are CR 23-018 and RPA 23-005. So as noted, the proposal is both an amendment to the Washoe County master plan and an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. We'll cover the details of these components on the following slides. The approximately 19.926 or 20-acre subject site is located immediately southeast of the unimproved intersection of Lear Boulevard and Fleetwood Drive in Lemon Valley. The Washoe County Board of County Commissioners approved the proposed master plan amendment and regional plan sponsorship at their October 10th meeting. And finally, the regional planning staff is recommending that the proposed amendment to the regional plan and the Washoe County master plan conform with the 2019 Truckee Meadows regional plan. To go over the conformance review portion of this, as introduced, the proposal includes an amendment to the Washoe County master plan to change the land use on the northern portion, the northern 8.566 acres of the parcel from rural to suburban residential. And you can see that on the slide. So again, the northern portion of the property is designated rural and the southern is suburban residential. So the amendment would create one suburban residentially designated parcel. Now to go over the regional plan amendment portion of this, the site is currently located in Tier 3, in the Tier 3 regional land designation. The proposed amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan necessitates an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to change the regional land designation from Tier 3 to Tier 2, because Tier 3 lands are limited to the existing densities. The existing density is set by, again, the rural and the suburban residential land uses, as shown on the previous slide. Tier 2 does allow for up to 30 dwelling units per acre. However, the suburban residential land use in the North Valley's area plan allows a maximum of 7 dwelling units per acre. Here you can see the proposed tier amendment, again, on the existing on the left, and then the proposed on the right, taking the property from Tier 3 to Tier 2. And then to go do a little policy overview. For the proposal, the primary policies that set the review criteria are policy RC9, which sets the conformance review evaluation factors, which we'll go over first. And then for the regional plan amendment side, policy RF5, regional land designation amendments, and the overarching policy RC10, regional plan amendment findings. RF5, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, sets a specific criteria for inclusion into different tiers. In this case, Tier 3 to Tier 2. The criteria analysis is embedded in the analysis provided in the staff report for policy RC10. And then finally, policy RC10 of the 2019 regional plan identifies the 7 criteria that the RPC and RPGB must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment. We'll go over those as well after this next section. As noted, policy RC9 identifies the 5 factors that the RPC must consider when considering conformance. And then regarding population growth in the North Valleys Area Plan, the proposed suburban residential land use allows for a density range of up to 7 dwelling units per acre. The proposed amendment may provide greater support for a range of housing types and sizes and densities in the North Valleys area. Regarding regional form, the subject site is located in Tier 3 of the Truckee Meadows Service Area, or TMSA. However, this request proposes to change the regional land designation to Tier 2. Per the regional plan, development in Tier 2 is at suburban levels with a variety of residential and non-residential uses. The proposal is consistent with Tier 2. The proposal is both compatible with surrounding properties and with the development pattern in Lemon Valley. In regard to public facilities and services, materials submitted by Washoe County indicate that the public facilities and services will be available and adequate to serve the proposal as required by policy PF1, the list of facility and service standards in the regional plan. In regards to potable water and wastewater treatment, the subject site will be served by the Truckee Meadows Water Authority for potable water and the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility for wastewater treatment. Flood control and stormwater facilities will be constructed pursuant to Washoe County storm drainage standards and also appropriately conditioned during a development review process. Regarding transportation, the primary set of roadway improvements is anticipated to occur on site with additional off-site improvements to appropriately connect the subject site to Lemon Drive. Finally, the development will be served by the Lemon Valley Elementary School, the O'Brien Middle School, and the North Valleys High School. In regards to natural resources, during the original request for comments, the Nevada State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, identified a large archaeological cultural resource being located in the area. In response, an archaeological cultural resources survey was conducted to confirm that the resources were not located on the subject site. Washoe County planning staff identified that any subsequent development requests would likely include conditions regarding archaeological cultural resources and would have to comply with any applicable regulations. Finally, the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, and the Washoe Tribe of Nevada were provided an opportunity to review the proposal, but did not respond. Then regarding regional coordination, it contains 2 of the primary policies that are being considered in this item, again, policy RC9 and 10, and TMRPA ensures that regional coordination is at the forefront of our work and works with jurisdictional staff and other relevant entities during the conformance review and regional plan amendment processes. Now to move on to the review criteria for the regional plan amendment side, and that is contained in policy RC10. The 7 factors, and we'll go over, most of the analysis was covered in the conformance review section. We'll still cover a couple of additional points in this section. In regard to regional capacities and growth projections, the increase in potential residential density as a result of the proposed tier change is limited to 1 parcel and would allow a maximum of 139 dwelling units and overall density increase of approximately 50 dwelling units compared to what's allowed currently. Additionally, the materials submitted by Washoe County identified that development is being proposed for the subject site, and that is for approximately 87 dwelling units, lower than the maximum of 139, which would be allowed if this was approved. And that results in a 4.37 dwelling unit per acre density, considering the 87 unit development proposal. And then the 6 vision goals and policies of the regional plan. The subject site is adjacent to Tier 2 land and represents an appropriate extension of Tier 2 lands, especially considering the limited scope of the proposal, which is just the one parcel. So in conclusion, staff is recommending that the proposal conforms with the applicable policies of the regional plan. The primary policies include, again, RC9, which sets a conformance review findings criteria. RF5, which sets a criteria for inclusion into a higher tier, in this case, Tier 2. RC10, which sets the regional plan amendment criteria. So with that does conclude my presentation, and the proposed motions are on the slide, on this slide, or on page 21 of the meeting packet. Staff is available for questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we ask questions, are there any disclosures from any of the commission members? Okay, do you have any questions for staff? You have a question?
This is County Commissioner, City of Reno Planning Commissioner Becerra. Thank you for the presentation. We heard some public input prior to this related to this region. So my question, there was I think is a bullet 7. Would you mind going back one slide or two? There we go. Health and welfare of the community. And I was curious if you're able to elaborate on what the impact would be if we approve this on the health and welfare of the community, given the public input, particularly around the surrounding waters.
Yeah, thank you for the question. A couple points to make on the wastewater treatment as well as the flood control, stormwater drainage side. The wastewater treatment, there'll be a couple comments on this too, but wastewater treatment, as I noted in the presentation, would go to the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility. And I believe the properties in this area currently sewer to the Lemon Valley Water Reclamation Facility. And according to the Regional Water Management Plan, the overall plan for sewage disposal in the North Valleys is to essentially shut down or decommission the Lemon Valley Water Reclamation Facility. And the time frame that is presented in the Regional Water Management Plan is 2025, but that plan is now, I believe, a couple years old. So I don't know if there's an update to that, but that's the overall plan for wastewater treatment in the Lemon Valley, and I guess the North Valleys area. And then in regards to stormwater drainage, those would be, overall, that would be conditioned through a development process to meet the Washoe County drainage standards, as I also noted. So that would handle the stormwater conditions on the site. And then there was an overall, my understanding is there was an overall flood mapping revision process that occurred in the North Valleys, particularly around Swan Lake. And I believe, my understanding is that that has either been finalized or is close to being finalized. But the previous condition showed the northern portion of the subject site, like a small corner of it, I believe in flood zone A. But now my understanding is that has been shifted about 100 or maybe 200 feet to the north. So the condition will not exist on the site at the conclusion of the flood mapping process. There will not be a flood zone A condition on the site. So those are two of the primary factors in looking at the overall proposal in regards to water, both the treatment and then the drainage portion of it, that we would evaluate and the health and welfare of the community. And looking also, from a regional perspective at the land patterns that we see, and this being both consistent with the overall development patterns we see in the North Valleys area, and then also relying on Washoe County staff to analyze the adjacency of the land uses. And their analysis essentially said that this was compatible with the neighboring properties, and staff at a regional level would concur with that. So those are, I think, are the two primary considerations, both water and then compatibility of the land. The other factors that we would take a look at holistically is the adjacency of the tier boundary, and being there as tier 3 or tier 2 to the west and north would make this appropriate transition to go from tier 3 to tier 2, looking at that as well. So I think those are maybe the three primary considerations that we're looking at for the health and welfare particular bullet.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Commissioner Phillips, I have a few questions about the review criteria 5, 6, and 7. Have there been any deadlines placed on those?
On natural resources, intergovernmental impacts, and the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan. So we look at, when a proposal is submitted to us, we look at the materials that are included with that. And if we need something additional, then we would ask for that from folks. But we are taking a look at the conditions now, and if there would be any impact to those moving forward, such as talking about the archaeological or the cultural resources on the subject site. And we look at the current condition, which was evaluated by, as part of the applicant or the application package. It was looked to confirm that the archaeological cultural resources referenced by SHPA was not on the site. So that is the current status, but also looking forward, we look at what conditions might be included with a future development proposal. And that would include something, about doing grading activities and discovering a gravesite or something like that, as well as any regulations that apply to that stuff, to cultural and archaeological resources. So we're looking both at the present time and moving forward in those timeframes. I think that hopefully gets to answer what you're talking about in terms of your question.
Thank you. Any other questions? This is a public hearing item, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. Do we have?
We do. We have 4 wishing to speak on this item, and the first one is Tammy Holtstill, and after that will be Danny Cleus.
Tammy Holtstill for the record. In answer to your question, which was not answered on the health of the community, I can tell you that right where my finger is at is exactly where that is going to be. And it is in a floodplain, which was flooded in 2017. And the school is right over here, and the school was flooded in 2017, and it came close to flooding last year for this body of water. As far as health to the community, it is a danger to that property. They have to elevate it out of the floodplain. To elevate it out of the floodplain, they're moving all of that sewer back over to this community right here. This is what flooded in 2017, right here. And it will flood again with, I've already proven it, it is not affluent water in that lake. It is not storm water in that lake. I'd also like you to see all of the development up here at the front that the city of Reno and you as the mothership have approved. Even though some of you weren't here before, but you're here now. You are the mothership to the start of this, to say okay or no. You should be saying no, because this lake is only 1,800 acres in size. In 2018, when the residents won their lawsuit, there was already 3,000 acres of high-density development. Ask your staff how much the runoff is for stormwater on high-density development. It's 110%. This lake cannot take it. 3,000 acres versus, that was in 2018. 3,000 acres in 2018 and 1,800 acres. Do the math. Be logical. Use your brains. It's not going to fit. Stormwater and effluent are not going to fit in that lake, ever. The stormwater alone, we're going to get flooded again one of these years. I didn't flood that in 2017. I'm not in the floodplain at the current moment, but if you keep allowing for these people to take and elevate out of the floodplain area, they're pushing the water back to us. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be in the floodplain. A home that my husband and I, he's owned it for 40 years. We turned around recently and made it bigger, nicer, more updated. And you want to mess with us? Besides pushing effluent on us? And it was that raunchy when it happened in 2017. I bet you if you go around to the homes, you can find where the soil that was saturated in 2017 still has traces of what's in there now. It's disgusting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up I have Danny Cleus, and after that it will be Donna Robinson.
Danny Cleus, just like I said, you guys don't do your research. Schools, they're already at 100% plus. Our roads cannot take it anymore. I missed 3 doctor's appointments because I couldn't get on the freeway. One day it took 3 hours to get from Military Road just to Buck Drive. And that's not even to the freeway. Another thing, when we had the flood in 2017, there was no cleanup. Lemon Valley Elementary School, they never cleaned that up. They never cleaned up my area, which I flooded. And just so you know, I've been in my home for 50 years. I am the one that started the lawsuit against the city of Reno. It was my research, my doing, that won that case. All we needed was somebody with letters behind their names to redo what I've been saying for years. We're tired of it, guys. We can't go through this anymore. I'm on medication right now because of everything the city and the county has put me through. Never been on medication before. I was a truck driver. I drove all over the United States. Didn't need medication then to deal with idiots. All of a sudden, here's another thing. Before time runs out, he said it's only going to be 87 dwellings. Well, if it's only 87 dwellings, why do you need to change it? Come on, that doesn't make sense. You know what makes sense? He wants it changed because as soon as he gets his plan in there, he's going to change it. They all do it. We've been doing this since 2017. We did it for 3 years straight until my dad passed away. Then I got out of it. That lake is smaller now. They keep making that lake smaller and smaller with the barriers that they put up. Where's the water going to go, guys? It was proven in 2018 that only out of 72 retention ponds, 2 of them worked out of the city of Reno. You guys got a problem with your retention, detention, stupid runoff plans that you guys come up with because they do not work. That lake is full. And if it floods me again, I'm coming after everybody. I've done my research. I'm not going to stop.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Donna Robinson, and then Lori, is it Boach or Beach?
how well you know me.
Oh, can I have the overhead, please?
You certainly can.
I'm using the same picture that Tammy used. I wasn't planning on speaking here, but after listening, I decided I better. My name is Donna Robinson, for the record, and I would like all my comments on the record. I'm a resident out in Lemon Valley, approximately right in here where my finger is. I was a victim of the 2017 flooding. I was out of my house for 19 months, $160,000 worth of damage. My flood insurance paid $1,200. Yeah, that's because they have all kinds of nice little clauses. Real quick, traffic, developing out in the North Valleys, whether it's Lemon or Golden or Stead or Cold Springs. RTC did a study that they are doing the increase the freeway currently. They said in 2022, it was over 82,000 trips a day on that freeway. 82,000. It tripled from previous years. You're going to add thousands of people out there. There are currently 2 developments out in Lemon Valley that are going to add about 1,000 or more people. We're already bumper to bumper. It takes hours. 20 minutes into Reno normally takes an hour to 2 hours during high traffic times. We might as well be in LA. And that development for the road is only going to Golden Valley. It is not going to help Lemon or Cold Springs. Accidents have increased. Every day there is an accident in the morning, and every day there is an accident at night. And the construction's going to take till 2025. Increasing the number of people, the number of homes and residences out there, whether it's an apartment, a townhome, or whatever, you are increasing at least 2 vehicles per home or per residence. Figure husband, wife, they both have vehicles, not to mention their kids. The flooding. Washoe County built up the berms out there. It's a Band-Aid. Building up the developments, bringing dirt in, is only going to push the water into current residents. There is no fix for that right now. When I bought my house in 1991, I was in a zone C. In 2017, they upgraded it to an AE, the worst that there can be. My horse, for those of you that are horse people, got pigeon fever. It's a bacteria in the ground. We have had it run rampant out there in Golden Valley, Lemon Valley. It's a corneobacterium. Creates abscesses on the horses. Okay? It is absolutely awful. This is him healed. He is still healing. It's 2 months. That bacteria lives in the ground for 8 months. It is highly contagious. It's a type of diphtheria. When is it going to affect the people?
Thank you.
Next up, I have Lori Boach, and then last comment card I've received is Ken Crater.
For the record, it's Lori Beach. Of course, if you know me, they call me the other two. I'm here, we know development's going to happen. It happens. I've lived all over the world and all over the United States as a military child, a military person, and a military spouse. My husband retired out of here, so here I am. I own land in other parts of the country too, so I know growth will happen, but let's fix these problems. It floods. There's people off of Lemon that have actually lost some of their property because it's still underwater, and it will never come back out from underwater. We've got people on Pompey that have lost everything. We've got I know at least 2 of your residents sitting right here that have lost everything and have had trouble rebuilding. We can't stop you from approving these if they have a true meaning. But yet here I live on 2 acres. I live on 2 acres in Lemon Valley. And the hoops I had to jump through to build a garage. Our soil is so bad out there. They had to, for a 24 by 50 metal garage, they had to dig down over 4 feet, bring it back up to code, and then build it. I have been going through the approval processes since February and just had the slab poured 2 weeks ago. The building will not go up until December 6th. I cannot, on my 2 acres, one house, a 1,900 square foot house on 2 acres, I can't put a mother-in-law suite because it's not allowed because of where I'm at. But yet every developer can come to you and say, well, I bought this land, but we really want to do this with it. I'm not saying you don't have a right to buy that land, but buy that land and do what it is there and accept that. Don't come back and keep coming back. So when I come back in a year and ask you if I can build a granny flat for my infirm mother to live with me, are you going to approve it? Probably not, because it's not allowed, because I'm only on 2 acres. So, that's all I'm asking. Lemon Valley School, it's old, it's decrepit. It's at least we got a new O'Brien for that, what's that's worth. These homes are going into a subpar school district. Let's fix our infrastructure. There's been 3 deaths on Lemon Drive alone, 2 this year. Do we need to get someone famous or with power to die, like the gentleman on North Virginia, to get a crossing sign? How many more deaths do we need before we know, let's fix, let's do what we have, then let's entertain these. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Mr. Kramer comes up, can we have him actually, are you representing Washoe County?
No.
No? Okay.
Applicant. I'm the applicant.
Okay, all right. I was thinking we might have questions.
Madam Chair, Jeremy Smith for the record, and legal counsel Prunty may want to weigh in on this, but in the past we have had the applicant, which is Washoe County in this case, answer questions and also defer to the applicant's representative or the developer's representative for the applicant, which in this case would be Ken Crater. So maybe Jessica.
Yes, Madam Chair, Jessica Prunty for the record. That's absolutely correct. Of course, the applicant is entitled to make public comment, but if they are available, as well as the underlying real party and interest for questions, then the commission is perfectly entitled to ask them questions in comport with our past practice.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and have you make your comments, and then I'd like the commission be able to ask questions as needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the record, my name is Ken Crater. I know most of you, but for those of you that don't know me, born and raised in Reno, 62 years. I started working out in the North Valleys in the mid-1970s doing projects on the air base. My father was a longtime civil engineer in this community, so I'm very familiar with that area. And unfortunately, a lot of the issues that do occur out there are not just related to new development, but of all the development that occurred back in the 60s and 70s when there was no requirements for infiltration basins and a lot of inadequate infrastructure that was developed at that time. And frankly, new development is now solving a lot of the problems that exist out in the North Valleys. The industrial project that built a major flood channel and took a huge number of homes in this area out of the floodplain. And our little project is not in the flood zone. It's out of the flood zone. And that picture, if you looked at it, you can actually see it's high and dry. And in fact, there is an error in the current flood zone that's being corrected by Dwayne Smith, the county engineer. And that has to deal with the topography. And our project is not actually in the floodplain. There's just an error in the topo mapping for that floodplain. So that will be corrected. Our project is out of the floodplain. And when the flooding occurred out in 2018, I was one of the first people to jump in and say, you know what, we need to do a different job in the North Valleys. We need to increase the amount of infiltration that we're providing on these new development projects to make up for the fact that there's so much development out there that doesn't have any infiltration basins. All they have is roadside drainage. And I said we ought to increase that by like 30%, a reasonable number, so we can start providing more infiltration in the area. That has now been adopted by all the agencies, including Washoe County, So we will actually be providing 30% more infiltration than what our projects required. And being a civil engineer, I'm also a firm believer in get it done right the first time. I had our geotechnical consultants go out and do 3 times the amount of perk testing to make sure that we identified the right location on site, that it would perk adequately, that the bottom of our infiltration would be above the flood zone. I've gone to great lengths to make sure that this project absolutely has no impact whatsoever on the elevation of Swan or Lemon Lake. I'm also a traffic engineer. I was a traffic engineer for the city of Reno for 7 years. We've done a very major traffic study on this little project. Again, 87 homes. There's been a ton of improvements done out there, including the new interchange, widening on Lemon Drive. But our study showed that we can accommodate the traffic from this project. And finally, on schools, I've been highly involved in schools, long-range planning, overcrowding committees, and I talk to principals, and they say, we love little projects like this because the new parents and new students come in and invigorate our schools. So I'm very confident this project will be good for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you stay up, Ken? Can you stay up the? Oh, yeah, sure. Do we have any other public comment?
I have not received any.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and then Ken, have you stay at the podium and open it up. Does any of the commissioners have questions?
That's not fair. We should be able to stand up there too.
You're out of order.
No, I'm not.
He is, he's an applicant representative and we can ask questions. And if you continue to disrupt this, I'm going to ask you to leave. So please respect our body up here and let us do our job. So does any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
Hello, City of Reno, Planning Commissioner Becerra, for the record. Just in simple terms, what is the benefit to the region of passing this proposed amendment? Because we're talking about 50 additional dwelling units, correct? That this area gains. It's my interpretation, but maybe in your words, so I can better understand this, and maybe for the folks in this chambers can understand it. What is that benefit to the community in the region?
Sure. Again, for the record, Ken Crater. I'm the actual project applicant, the Cat Oakley with Washoe County. The applicant tonight is also here to answer questions. But right now, we're allowed to do, I can't remember, like 55 units on this project. Mm-hmm. We're proposing 87. And we will have to come back with a tentative map application, right? So that'll have to go through the approval process again. But basically what we're providing is great quality housing that this community very much needs, and housing that is on sort of the lower end range, more of starter homes. I mean, that's one of the most desperately needed types of housing in this community. I have done a ton of projects in this community. I have a great reputation on the projects that I do and I develop. They're always quality, but really providing just that housing for people that can maybe afford the $450,000 house, but not a $700,000 house, right? It's just that quality housing that's in a bracket that more people can afford, that is just so desperately needed. With good amenities, we have a pocket park into this. We have a walking trail around the perimeter, and we even put a minimum 35-foot landscape buffer between us and the existing county development. And we're having public streets. It'll be a park that other residents in the area can use. So that pocket park will also be a nice amenity for folks that live in the area.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chair Reed,
Yes.
I have a question for Ms. Oakley.
Yes. Can we have the representative from Washoe County come up?
Can you just talk to us a little bit more about the wastewater treatment? It sounds like the Lemon Valley Treatment Facility is going to be decommissioned and all of the treatment's going to go to the Reno Stead facility, correct?
Cat Oakley, Washoe County Planning. That is my current understanding of it, but Ken Crater did have more recent conversations with our engineering department about the specific plans. They are the ones who are, the experts in it, but that treatment plant is going to be decommissioned, and yes, ultimately, all affluent would go elsewhere.
And just as part of the county process, when the tentative map is brought back in front of the county, they can't move forward if they don't have wastewater treatment available within that facility, correct?
Yes, a will serve letter is required with the tentative map application and prior to approval.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before you leave, any other questions for Washoe County? Okay, thank you. All right, any comments or further discussion from the commission?
I have one, Chair.
Go ahead.
Perhaps it's for this body right here on this side, or perhaps Washoe County. I'm just curious, why is part of the parcel zoned one way, and now we're coming back to zone the other half?
Yeah, Cat Oakley, Washoe County Planning. So that northern part of the parcel that's currently, it's zoned general rural, and it's in our rural master plan land use designation. That used to be, from my understanding, in the floodplain. And then significant drainage improvements were completed in that area, and the floodplain was remapped. And now what the current maps show is a very small sliver of floodplain in the northeast corner of that parcel. And then what Mr. Crater said to you before was that there's also a mapping error that is currently in the process of being corrected that would show that that floodplain elevation is in fact not on this subject parcel at all. And so in short, the drainage situation in the area changed, and so that area that is currently rural used to be developmentally constrained, and it no longer is.
Thank you. How far is the line from flooding? Like from that parcel, are we talking a foot, 2 feet,
So
50 feet?
On the current mapping, which again, we've established is not exactly correct. It's, the floodplain is pretty close to the north, and Ken might have more specific information on where that future line is being drawn. But it is not going to be on the property.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, if may I chime in, or Chair?
Would you like to ask a question?
I do, Mr.
of
Kramer.
Mr. Crater? Okay, can Mr. Crater come back up?
Mr. Crater, only because I think you were referenced here, so where would that line be drawn for the floodplain?
Again, Ken
corrected.
Crater, yeah, for the record, actually the line falls within the right-of-way of Lear Boulevard. None of the actual residential development is within that current flood zone. But again, as I said, that's only due to a topographic mapping error. And once that error is corrected, it'll show that the new line is about 200 to 300 feet north of the project boundary. And that's consistent with the photos that you've seen here tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question. Hopefully you can answer. When is the map going to be corrected?
It's in process right now. The county hired a consultant to do the hydrology study, and it's in review with FEMA. But it sounds like from the county engineer that FEMA has accepted the changes. Essentially, the 100-year floodplain is raising 0.7 feet. It's going from a 49.24 elevation to a 49.24.7, and then there's the administrative change to change the topographic mapping error.
Thank you. Any other, okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Phillips,
Commissioner
I have
Phillips.
a question for the staff for Washoe County.
All right, we're just going to play musical chairs. Maybe you should both stay up.
I just want clarification. I am still worried about the issues of 5, 6, and 7 on the criteria. Maybe could we bring that one back up? There are no deadlines set for those to be carried out and considered before any kind of development?
I think from our perspective, in looking at the master plan amendment, I think this is an important point to make, is that we at Regional are looking at the master plan amendment primarily. The zoning, we don't really get involved with for the most part, aside from if it was associated with a project of regional significance. So the impacts, when the county staff are looking at them and and evaluating a development would be addressed in the actual development conditions and that proposal. So from our perspective, as I mentioned earlier, the natural resources, we looked at that again from this current time and moving forward. And staff is, I guess, supports that there is really no significant impact to natural resources. And the same to the vision, goals, and policies of the regional plan. We are looking at the regional form. And this fits, again, being adjacent to Tier 2 and being something that fits within the development pattern that you see out in Lemon Valley. So those are the two primary considerations that we're looking at, as well as compatibility of the proposal. And granted that the application is only, as you guys are seeing this in the materials, is only the master plan amendment, but that is still compatible from our perspective with the surrounding properties. And I think Washoe County's analysis bears that out as well. 4, 5, and 6. And intergovernmental impacts, I don't think we identified any that are intergovernmental impacts. I think looking at the forthcoming public infrastructure plan, we're trying to take into account potential opportunities that also would come from development occurring that the public would benefit from. We don't really have those identified, but in the future, something like that, an intergovernmental impact, is something that we could possibly quantify. But at this present time, for this proposal, we have not identified any issues with that section. So I think that addresses 4, 5, and 6.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question, go ahead, Commissioner Belto.
Thank you so much. So I'm trying to understand how we're supposed to apply number 7, the health and welfare of the community, given that we're looking at like a change in designation.
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed to evaluate health and welfare of the community? Are we supposed to look at what would have to occur as a result of a tentative map and a future development that would go through some process? Or do we look purely at the change in designation and whether that creates a negative health effects on the community?
The changes for the master plan level. Mm-hmm. I think one of the, and this will back up. I think one of the primary things to think about as a commissioner would be these 7, as well as the 5 criteria that are listed as part of RC9. But one of the other things to underscore here in terms of health and welfare of the community is that, and this gets to my point of talking about the master plan versus the zoning, because you heard a figure of, I think, 55 units that are currently allowed. But when we at regional, we only look at the master plan level. And what would be possible, considering the Washoe County master plan, I think is currently right now 87 dwelling units possible on the site. And what they are going for in terms of redesignating the tier to Tier 2, as well as the master plan amendment, would up that total to 139. But when you also consider the tentative map that has been submitted for 87 units, I think in the net change then really from what's possible on the site currently to what has been submitted in terms of the tentative map would be a reduction in 2. I think you can take that into consideration, and legal counsel can also talk about that as well. But the criteria that are listed for this one, as well as for policy RC10, as well as part of policy RC9. And then the big, regional forum, public facilities, public services and facilities. That is another thing to consider, and something that we've talked, I think a good amount of depth in terms of looking at the issues, the primary issues with that. And I'll actually double back and talk about health and welfare of the overall community from the school district perspective. And I did speak with Washoe County School District staff about the overcrowding in general in the North Valleys. And their response was that the overall enrollment figures are declining in the Washoe County School District. And that is probably in part due to maybe demographic changes in the region, as well as the private schools and charters. So their response to current overcrowding is that they have the capabilities to address any students that were added to the system, and that would be through the facilities modernization plan, which we at regional will likely know more in December of this year in terms of what those funds would look like. But those and also talking with them, funds likely will roll out through that process to the North Valleys area and address, I don't know if it would necessarily get to overcrowding, but we don't know those details quite yet, but you can imagine that modernizing a facility would help that, particularly those 3 schools. So that is another component of health and welfare of the community to consider. I mean, I think it's somewhat all intertwined, and that is what we were aiming to do in writing these policies, that the commissioners considering this would have the ability to look at really all components of the project in addressing really any of these, as well as policy RC9.
Let's go follow-up question.
Yes, go ahead.
What triggers the applicant to do a tentative map?
I think that's at their behest. Because they're not necessarily required to, they go through this process and then at their behest, they do the tentative map process. It isn't necessarily a requirement. If I'm understanding your question.
That might.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
Jessica Prunty for the record. I just want to chime in to remind the commission that we are at a regional review perspective here. And we do not get into the zoning changes that might be happening at the local level. And therefore, what is before you is whether or not the master plan amendment proposed by the county conforms with the regional plan. It is not necessarily what the project, the underlying project may or may not be. That is not before this commission. What is before the commission is the question of whether or not the master plan amendment proposed by Washoe County conforms with the regional plan, and whether the tier change, whether or not you are going to recommend to the Regional Planning Governing Board to adopt a tier change as well. And I just wanted to ensure that the commissioners here understood the perspective, the regional perspective, and that the applicant before you is Washoe County, not the underlying, what may or may not happen vis-a-vis the underlying developer, because the project itself is not before this commission, and it may not be unless it actually triggers the requirements for a project of regional significance. And therefore, the question before you is whether or not you determine that Washoe County's request for the master plan amendment conforms with your regional plan. And if so, whether or not you want to change the tiers of that portion of the parcel in question to a different tier. That is the question before this commission. And if you, I'm here to answer any further questions in that regard.
Thank you. Commissioner Velto, I think you have a question.
So thank you for that. And I think that's kind of my confusion with the criteria number 7. A lot of the objections that go to the development on the area seem to presume that as a result of what we are ruling on tonight, there will in fact be development. So that's why I want to understand whether that is a guaranteed outcome or if there's another part of the process. Otherwise, I don't know how to evaluate finding number 7, because it doesn't seem like making any change to this plan necessarily results in development or necessarily results in any health and welfare effects on the community. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
You are absolutely correct, Commissioner Velto. Regional planning is a body of specific and limited statutory jurisdiction. And whatever might happen, if you determine that the master plan amendment proposed by Washoe County conforms with the regional plan, whatever might happen thereafter is going to be a matter of local concern, unless that project would trigger the criteria to be reviewed by this body as a project of regional significance. This body does not have the statutory authority to condition your approval of the master plan amendment. You are simply here to determine whether or not it conforms with your regional plan under the criteria. And thus you need to view that criteria through a regional lens on its face before you as far as the master plan amendment change.
Perfect.
I hope that's helpful.
That does help. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do any other commissioners have any questions for staff, our representative from the county? Okay. Thank you. So we'll bring it back to the commission. Any further discussion? Or I'm looking for a motion.
Chair, I'd just like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Becerra, it's been an insightful conversation. Staff, thank you so much. Very insightful, very thoughtful. Commissioners as well, very thoughtful with the line of questioning. I personally can't find or make the findings for 5 through 7. And I'll just say that, and that's how I'll be voting this evening.
Thank you. Any other commissioners wish to comment? Go ahead,
Chair, yes.
Commissioner Velto.
So there are a lot of concerns raised that I think are outside of the scope of what we're able to decide. We're looking at a change in the designation, not an approval of the project, which would lead to a lot of the problems you've identified, potentially. So given that our scope is tied to change in designation, we can't evaluate whether that creates a right, whether that leads to a tentative map. That seems to be all delegated to the local agencies. So because of that, I struggle to find how a lot of the concerns that are raised factor into the decisions of these factors. I think that we're talking about a lot of issues that I think are more appropriate for discussion over at a time there's a potential tentative map or action by a local agency, but not necessarily appropriate for our consideration of the agenda item before us. I can make all the findings, and I would support the recommendation. And part of that reason is because I have limited what I'm evaluating and hope that you're able to raise these issues when I think it's more appropriate, but I don't necessarily think it's appropriate at this time when we're just looking at designation or conformance. But I hope you're able to raise those issues at a future meeting when there is a local agency considering possibly a tentative map, but that is not necessarily before us. So that's why I think I can make the findings.
Are you going to make a motion?
And I'm able to make a.
May I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. I just want to remind the commission that this is an item that will require 2 motions. The first motion and first vote will be for the master plan amendment aspect of this item, and that will rely on the 5 RC9 criteria that Regional Planner Tolley first presented. And then the second motion is then to recommend, so in order for that master plan, if approved, in order for that to happen, we need to change the tier status, and that requires a regional plan amendment. And so the second motion is to move against the 7 criteria, which are up for a regional plan amendment. Do you agree that this should move from, or do you recommend that the governing board really preside over the movement of this parcel from tier 3 to tier 2? So the final decision on whether or not this will change, the master plan will change and the tiering will change, actually rests with the governing board. So just to point that out. So there are 2 motions and the criteria are slightly different.
And
Thank
you
you.
would like this motion made separately?
Yeah, 2 separate motions, please. Yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, Commissioner Donchik, are you prepared to make a motion, or is there any other comment before? Okay.
Prepared to make a
Oh.
motion?
I just want to say I concur with all the concerns and issues that everybody has brought up tonight, but as our legal counsel said, we are very limited and restricted on what we're really supposed to be looking at. And based on that, I have to say that we have to move forward. So I make a motion. The first one, I move to find the Lerner-Lemon amendment to the Washoe County Planning Commission in conformance with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just want a clarification. You're making the motion that's listed in the staff report on page 21?
Yes, that's the motion.
That's the first motion.
Motion, we have to do 2 separates.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion passes. Let's move on to the second item.
If you wish, Madam Chair, I will also make the second motion. I move to adopt RPC Resolution 2311 regarding an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in this staff report.
Madam Chair, I will also second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Who was that opposed?
Commissioner Nieberline, for the record, is opposed.
Okay, can you go through, can you state why you're opposed? Which findings do you think are not being met?
I'd have to see them back up again. I'm not completely sure that the community welfare one has been met. I'm not convinced of the beneficial nature of this project to the area, given the concerns that were listed by the folks that we've listened to today and also by the explanations from staff. I have a little bit of concern that health and welfare of the community has not been adequately discussed. We did hear that there could be some improvement because of this nature, the nature of this. However, I would like to see some additional information regarding that. I also feel that being that we hold so many applicants to the very letter of things down to inches and fence heights and such, I would like to see that topographical map updated regarding the tier placements on this before I vote again on it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, from a legal perspective, I recommend that you clarify the number of votes in favor and opposed on this item, as there is a 2/3 majority required to recommend passage of a regional plan amendment to the governing board.
Yeah, let's do a roll call and tally the votes. Thank you.
And do you want the roll call vote just for the second one only?
Second, yes.
Got it. Okay, Shelley Reed,
Aye.
Alex Felto,
Aye.
Manny Becerra,
Nay.
Francine Donchik,
Aye.
Marilyn Kramer,
Aye.
Kate Nelson,
Aye.
Carl Nieberlin,
Nay.
Pat Phillips,
Yes, yay.
and Carrie Rohrmeyer.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like we have 7-2, so that is a majority. So motion passes. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's move on to item C. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Smith, for the record, item 7C is another public hearing for possible action as a regional plan amendment and project of regional significance for the PSREC Fort Sage transmission line. Again, we have Chris Tolley to take us through a presentation on that.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item is a project of regional significance and regional plan amendment for the Pluma Sierra Rural Electric Cooperative Fort Sage transmission line. Its case numbers are CR 23-019 and RPA 23-006. The proposal includes a project of regional significance to establish a new electric transmission line that carries 60 kilovolts or more, and a regional plan amendment to establish a new regional utility corridor for a portion of the overall transmission line being proposed. For the subject cases, regional planning staff recommends that both the components, the PRS and RPA, conform with the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan, and the proposal is located approximately 1.25 miles south of the Fish Springs Road and Rainbow Road intersection, which is approximately 40 miles north of Reno. The proposed 69 kilovolt transmission line emanates from the Fort Sage substation and runs approximately 1.15 miles, runs north from the substation for approximately 1.15 miles. This portion of the transmission line is located in an existing regional utility corridor. From there, the transmission line runs west towards California for approximately 1 mile. This portion requires a new regional utility corridor per the regional plan. The transmission line continues into California, connecting with the PSREC Sierra Army Depot substation, and then to the PSREC Patton substation. The proposed transmission line is being proposed to increase reliability of service to approximately 450 homes in the Red Rock area, as well as increased reliability from wildfire issues, to assist the Sierra Army Depot in achieving compliance with the 2018 National Defense Authorization Act, and increased reliability of service to the Federal Correctional Institute, that's Hurlong, and the High Desert State Prison in Susanville. The cases being considered in this item are requirements of the 2019 Regional Plan, and this is found in Policy RC6, which connects the requirements found in the Nevada Revised Statutes regarding projects of regional significance and those further defined and adopted by the Regional Planning Commission, of which a 60 kilovolt or more transmission line is listed and requires approval by the Regional Planning Commission. And Policy PF 11, which specifies that all regional utility corridors and sites are shown on Map 3, and that a regional plan amendment is required for the establishment of a new regional utility corridor, as is presented in this item. To go over the review criteria, Policy RC9 of the 2019 Regional Plan identifies the 5 factors that the RPC must consider when evaluating conformance. And then regarding population growth, the proposed 69 kilovolt transmission line will serve the wider region, including portions of Nevada and California. The proposed transmission line does not include any land use modifications, so there are no anticipated impacts to regional form. In regards to natural resources, the use permit includes conditions related to the sage grouse, migratory bird nesting, avian collision reduction, noxious weeds, and best management practices to reduce the risk of wildfire ignitions. And those all were a product of the comment portion, the initial review portion of the proposal, or most of them. And then regarding the regional plan amendment portion of this policy, or this item, Policy RC10 identifies the 7 review criteria that the RPC and RPGB must consider when evaluating a regional plan amendment. We've covered, again, most of the materials, but we'll add a couple points. In regard to, or one point, in regard to health and welfare of the community, the proposal to amend the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to adopt a new regional utility corridor supports the health and welfare of the community and the wider region. The proposed transmission line will serve the wider region, including portions of Nevada and California. And then in conclusion, staff is recommending that the proposal conforms with the applicable policies of the regional plan. Primary policies include Policy RC9, projects of regional significance, RC10, conformance review findings, PF11, regional utility corridor and site regional plan amendment requirements, and RC10, regional plan amendment findings. That does conclude my presentation for this item. However, Team RPA and Washington County staff are available for any questions. And the motion is located on page 42 and 49, or 42 and 43 in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Tully, quick question. As I was reading through the report, there was a mention about concerns from NDOW, and there were some conditions applied. Would you mind elaborating what those issues were?
Yeah, I think that would be, and I'll ask Kat maybe, or no, Julie to come up to help me address that. But they raised concerns. I think the full list was, it's a pretty standard list for out there in terms of other cases that we've seen come in. And those were addressed again, and saying again, this is, we've had a recent case come through where the conditions were pretty similar to address the NDOW related issues, not issues, but concerns.
Okay, great, thank you.
Commissioner Passero, you have any other questions?
Not at the moment, Chair, thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions? Anybody on the Zoom meeting have questions? Because I can't see you. There you are. All right. Well, this is a public hearing, so I will open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We have not received any for this item.
Okay, then I will close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Does do we want the representative from the county to come up? Do we have any questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion. We have two motions.
Madam Chair, I will take the first motion. I move to find that the PSREC Fort Sage Transmission Line Project of Regional Significance is in conformance with the 2019 Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Donchik, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Since this is a supermajority, should I do a roll call? It doesn't.
If you want, sure.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
You got it. All right. Shelley Reed,
Aye.
Alex Felto,
Yes.
Manny Becerra,
Aye.
Francine Donchik,
Aye.
Marilyn Kramer,
Aye.
Kate Nelson,
Aye.
Carl Nieberlein,
Aye.
Pat Phillips,
Aye.
and Carrie Rohrmeyer.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, and we're looking at the second motion.
Madam Chair, I will go ahead and make that motion as well.
Okay.
So second.
I move to adopt RPC Resolution 2312 regarding an amendment to MAP 3 of the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And since this does not require a supermajority, we'll go ahead. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item D. Director Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. We have item 7D, which is the long-awaited RPC training segment. Self-certification information and Pool-Packed e-learning portal. Thank you, Nate Kusha, for taking us through.
Good evening, Commissioners. Nate Kusha for the record. As Jeremy mentioned, it's everyone's favorite item, the RPC training item. So we're just going to do a real quick overview for you guys. NRS 278.0265 does state that the Regional Planning Governing Board shall prescribe an appropriate course of at least 12 hours of training in land use planning for members of the Regional Planning Commission. And you can see some of the requirements therein. But we'll bring you guys here. So this is our RPC training portal. This is where you can go to find all the information on the RPC training opportunities. Hopefully, at least some of you have already been here. I know some of you have because you filled out the self-certification form, so thank you. For those of you who haven't, we will be sending out this link in an email to all of you again. You can go here. We have our self-certification form where you can log all of the hours you've completed toward your training. And we have a list of required readings up top there that we ask all of you to please look through those. And then we have a variety of other optional materials which you can use to fulfill the remainder of your 12 hours of training. So with that, we have enrolled and made accounts for all of you on the Pool-Packed e-learning website, and we'll be sending an email to each of you with your login info for that. We would like all of you to please take the Open Meeting Laws course to familiarize yourself with that material, if you haven't done so already, of course. Some of you, I think, have. And then also we will be enrolling each of you in the Robert's Rule of Orders course. This one is quite a bit longer, so it will take some time. So we're not asking all of you to do that, but if you have time to do that one and you need to complete those 12 hours, please utilize that as well. So again, we'll be sending the email with the RPC training portal website, so you can get there, inclusive of the password needed for the self-certification form. And then we'll be sending you your login information for the Pool-Packed e-learning, and we'll be enrolling each of you in those two courses. So look for that, and we'll be sending that out tomorrow. Other than that, that's all I got. If you guys have any questions about any of the training opportunities, you're welcome to ask them now. Of course, you can email or call us at any time, and we'll help you with that as well.
Any questions?
Just a clarification, if I may, because I've been on here for a while and I went through all these courses a while back, and I was told I didn't have to do them again. Is that correct?
Correct.
Make sure.
Yeah, that was
I don't mind taking more courses, but I was told that I didn't have to.
I had the same issue.
Okay. I'm going, wait a minute, did I miss? I'm thinking, did I miss something?
Nope, 12 hours, one time, you're good to
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
If you haven't done it, look at the required readings on the site, utilize these we have, and wrap that up. And please fill out the self-certification form so we know that you've done it, and I know a few of you have, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Let's go on to reports. Director Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a very short report. Basically, what I wanted to point out is that we've been kind of at a bit of a pause with our natural resource plan narrative document, but that is picking back up again, and we have had a change in membership. But previously, we had members of this commission serving on category-specific subcommittees to review information about the different categories of the natural resource plan. Basically, I think at this point, since things have changed and we're kind of trying to get this stuff out in the next few weeks so folks can review, I think what we'd like to do is just send it along to all of you. And then you can weigh in on the pieces. There's about 30 topic areas, give or take 22 now. It's down to 22. We've lumped a few things. And it started out as 30. And now it's changed. So basically, any of the 22 narratives, they're about 3 to 5 pages long each. They will comprise the body of the Natural Resource Plan. When we get those out there, we'll share that with you, and we'd be happy to take any comments you have about that or any questions. So just know that that is still happening and coming your way for your participation if you want to. There's no requirement that you do that. And you'll have a chance to see the full draft. I mean, we'll have many chances to see this document. But if you want to get in, pretty early, now's a good time when that comes out. I think, and I may be wrong on this, Nate's going to look at me if I am, but basically, I think we don't have any items for December, so there's a good chance that we will be canceling that December meeting. If for some reason that doesn't happen, and we'll let you know as soon as we can, it will be December 18th, again, an early Monday night meeting to avoid the Christmas holiday. But I feel like, as I say, I think we're going to be able to cancel that because we don't have any items at this time. So with that, I just want to say, I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you. Okay, any member reports?
Legal counsel?
All right. Yeah. All right, we'll do, next we'll do legal counsel's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Thank you very much for your accommodation to allow me to appear by Zoom tonight. I am normally in person at all of these meetings, but traveled with my family for the holiday. I did want to have one note of clarification in general. Typically speaking, there are 3 types of actions that come before this body. One is a potential regional plan amendment. And this body serves as the technical committee to the Regional Planning Governing Board in making recommendations whether or not to approve an amendment to the regional plan. Those recommendations must be passed by a 2/3 majority vote. As far as a master plan amendment that comes before you from one of the 3 local jurisdictions that you must find is in conformance with the regional plan, your conformance finding for a master plan amendment must pass by 2/3 of a majority vote. The third type of action that generally comes before you as part of your regular business is whether or not a project of regional significance conforms with the regional plan. The vote that you would take for a finding of conformance for a PRS is a majority vote of the body. And I just thought that would be helpful. I know there's many new members on the commission at this point in time. And I thought that we had all 3 of those before you tonight. And I thought you wanted a little bit of clarification from legal counsel in that regard. I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving and safe travels to anyone who are hitting the road or the air. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll open it up for our last public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I see 3 people over there itching to make a comment.
Free for all, now is your time.
We have done.
All right, I will close public comment and go to written correspondence.
No, we have not received any written correspondence.
All right, so this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And thank you to those that participated by Zoom while you're on vacation. And everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you for all the clarification, Jessica.